Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Authentic Podcast with Justin Doulard. And thank you for tuning in to another episode. It's time!
Mr. Dave Walker. Dave retired 36 years, Tulsa Police.
36 years, yes,
36 years. Lead homicide detective for 7.
I did do 7 years as the homicide supervisor. I wouldn't say I was the lead guy on any of that because those guys are good.
And now fairly nationally known from First 48. So
First 48 has put us on the map, and people do recognize that show.
Well, I kind of wanted to lead off asking you how retirement has been, but it doesn't sound like you really got much of a retirement. You're doing something completely different now, which has thrown you for a curveball, it sounds, based on your podcast there. So,
well, absolutely. When I retired in 2018, I was done. Physically, mentally, and emotionally finished with pretty much the world. So it took me 1.5 years, 2 years to lay around and get re-energized. And pretty much my wife said it was time to do something. And I've always had this vision of helping kids. I mean, I think we proved in Tulsa that you can put people in prison. But have we really proven that we can take people and make sure they don't go to prison? That's the big key. So I'm now working as the Dean of Discipline at a middle school here in the Tulsa Public School System. It was my niece. Our niece is a principal there, so she needed some help. And the wife said, here's a good fit for you. And I went in there and realized quickly that, I'm not as good as I thought I was because those kids are tough.
when did you start that?
I started January 23rd of last year.
Okay, so you took couple years off?
I did. I took 2 years of just trying to write a book, do the TV thing, save the world that way. And I realized the world is a big place. And there's a lot of people out there trying to do exactly that. And so you have to bite off just a little piece.
And your book is live or no?
It's in the works. It's not anywhere near written, but I'm still gathering material, as you might say, and the Dean of Discipline is a good part of that. So I'm glad I did it. Anybody can write a book and say, cop book, and how we solve these crimes. And there are a dime a dozen out there now, but it has to be worth something. I mean, it has to be able to help the world, basically, or a little part of it, and that's what I'm trying to do at the moment. And so I'm still gathering.
And you are doing what you call me tours, so doing leadership, or is it consulting and speaking, or what does that consist of?
Well, ME Tours is...
ME Tours.
Yeah, is the way I pronounce it, because it's somewhat about me, because that's who I know the best. But it's my tour of life, basically. And as I get older, there's more and more experiences. It's just kind of sad that I have all this experience in the police world and dealing with people, and it's not going anywhere. When I die, it goes away. So if I can't help people with what I've seen and what I've done, then it's all for naught.
Trying to pass that on, the knowledge and experience.
Yeah, so the ME Tours was just something I framed. It's kind of like the Save the 6-Year-Olds that I framed that too. There's all kinds of phrases out there. I'm not trying to coin any to make it famous. I'm just trying to be authentic, to use your podcast. So that's kind of where ME Tours started.
And how is your podcast going? I know you're in the 90s in the episodes, or 70s, or
I don't know how many episodes I got, and I don't know how it's doing. That's just the whole thing of it is. It's podcasting for a purpose, and really, since I'm the CEO and the only guy on there besides Pat, who does the mechanical stuff, Technical stuff, I guess, would be best. But and it's just stories that I tell, and usually, like this latest one was the Memphis problem up there, and what I think about that. So that's where it all comes from, and I don't look at the analytics of it. If you want to listen to it, listen to it. If you don't, turn it off. If you want to write something good, write it, and I don't read it. If you write something bad, I probably don't read that either. So,
well, I have listened to, I'd probably say 4 to 5 episodes, and then for your awareness, it has like 194 ratings. So I would say that's pretty good, especially for you've been doing it. It doesn't seem like that long yet.
I don't even know what 194 rating means, but
basically, like if you were going to go on a Google business or something, and hey, I like this restaurant, I'm going to give it 5 stars. Well, you can do that on Apple Podcasts. And I was, like I said, I've listened to several years, and you've got 194 ratings, and I think they're all 5 stars. So,
well, I'm sure there's a few that weren't 5 stars. So, and that's fine. I mean, I think we have to embrace people that are critical of you, and I think that's how we learn.
Oddly enough, I'm not like a huge true crime person, but I feel like now is a great time to be in true crime because I feel like there's never been more of it on TV, on the radio, the podcasts. I mean, yours is a little different because you did it and lived it. A lot of people are kind of have this fascination about it.
Yeah, I think really what I try to bring is a different perspective to it. I mean, anybody can look at it and say, this is what they did. But I really don't bring across how it feels to get that phone call in the middle of the night and know somebody's dead. And that pretty soon we're going to be knocking on a door. And so that feeling, that emotion that comes with being a homicide guy is immense. I mean, it's really touching. And it wasn't until I retired that I started feeling some of that. I don't know if you want to call it PTSD, but, you know, some of those feelings come up and you say, gosh, you know, you watch it on TV and you say, but I know what he's going through. And not everybody gets to know that. And most of us kind of hide it.
I followed the Memphis stuff a little bit. Like I said, I don't tune into that a whole lot, but it's hard not to see that stuff these days. And so I watch the tapes and all that. And I listened to your episode on it. I guess my main question from that is, to my understanding, you're a pretty big advocate for more cameras in society to catch the bad things that happen. So with that said, do you think without police cameras that this would have gone to the wayside? Like this would not be considered a murder?
I hate to say that, but it's been proven that without the cameras, cops have killed people and got away with it. So absolutely, I think the cameras being there adds to the case. And it's a shame. It really is. We should be professional enough that we should be able to do it without cameras. The law enforcement profession historically has proven we can't. So we have cameras. And, you know, I think for all of us that are professional are glad of it. It's just it's a dang shame that we have to watch it, because that is anything but policing. That was a murder that you saw.
This is kind of a pivot question. I try to do some good critical questions and think outside the box. So one of my topics I was going to ask you about that, you know, as they say, there's some bad apples, and a majority of these guys are good people. Tulsa, to my understanding, is noted and kind of recognized for all the police force have to have a college degree. Is that correct?
That is correct now, yes.
Do you think that is a good thing? Do you think that should be required? Do you think that yields you know, better police force as a whole? Obviously, not everyone with a college degree is a great guy or a smart guy, smart woman. But do you think that brings in better patrolmen, better policemen?
I think in a perfect world, having a college degree is a great asset. And I think back in the day when Tulsa required it, there was a lot of candidates. So that's how I got on. I mean, they went to University of Central Missouri and they had a little booth, and I said, I'm tired of being drunk and broke, and it was time to get a job. And I came here for 5 years, and just, you know, you find your niche, and I just stuck with it. I don't think you have to have a college degree to be a great cop.
Sure.
I just don't think that. You learn that on the job. I mean, that's what experience teaches us. So No, I think now if we're only going to run out of people that have college degrees.
You think we're going to run out?
Well, I think we're looking at that now. Recruiting has to be a different animal, basically. So we're not getting as many people to fill the academy classes that we need for attrition and all that. So we have to start looking outside the box, so to speak. I think we use the MMPI, those testing for emotional disturbed people, to keep them out. I believe that we should be able to use the MMPI to weed people in. Policing is such a vast, different than it used to be. I mean, we got technology now, the cameras. I believe we're going to have real-time cameras within 20 years.
Live?
Yeah, I think that's the way it's going. And you have to look at that. And then you look at DNA. That was, in 1800, Dr. Lockhart in France said, there's something there when we fight. And it took us 200 years to figure it out. But we're going to figure something new out. So we need those thinkers, critical thinking people. We don't need, everybody to be, the star pitcher. You got to fill the team somehow. And policing has all that. You got traffic investigations, you got computer science, you've got thinkers, you've got people sit in an office and plot things. And then you got us that run out there and do the human intelligence sort of stuff. It's a great profession. And to me, it's baffling that we don't have, overrun with people.
And so Tulsa caught you at a job fair.
It did. Yep. In Warrensburg, Missouri.
Any idea what you would have done if that hadn't worked out the way it did? Any other plans?
I have never thought of anything different. I wanted to be an attorney.
Okay.
But then you have to go to school. And I was
school.
done with school. So when I came in, I was going to be a cop for 5 years and then go to law school. I got bit by the bug. And
why 5 years?
I can put anything off for 5 years. That's why it was 5 years. I just figured I'd be 20, late 20s. Time to really find out what I really wanted to do with my life. And policing was it. And that's where I stayed.
So you went to Central Missouri from the St. Louis area, but born in Turkey? Is that correct?
I lived in Turkey. I was born in Aurora, Colorado. I went to kindergarten and first grade in Izmir, Turkey.
How does that work?
My dad was in the Air Force, and they, you had to go where my dad went.
Yeah,
they hauled me around, so I went there. Yeah, it was a good experience. Recollection of life comes around at 5 and 6, and Turkey was one of those that was a dirty place, and it was it's an experience that I think everybody should have to live through some way or another.
How long were you there? How many years?
Just 2 years.
And you remember it?
I remember a little bit of it. I don't remember all of it, but I remember there was a riot.
Okay.
And I got to watch a riot from my balcony, and that was amazing to see a mass of people turning over cars and starting fires, and it was pretty intense.
Did you guys live anywhere else with him in the Air Force, or was that before you were born, maybe?
Well, no. He was in the Air Force. I was born in Aurora, Colorado. Then we went to Flint, Michigan. That's my first recollection of life, colder than snot.
Yeah,
I don't like cold weather.
Bit, so.
I don't like cold. And then to Turkey, and then back to St. Louis, where he retired. So that's where I grew up.
And so you got recruited to Tulsa, and then obviously stuck it out after the 5 years, and then made a career out of it. I did know on your bio too that you're pretty good at quarterback. Is that what that said?
Well, I don't know that I was pretty good at it. I like to teach that when you're in the right spot. And I wasn't tall enough, big enough, fast enough, or good enough to be a quarterback in college.
But it said you played with some notable guys?
Oh, yeah. And there was always, in St. Louis, we had a heck of a team. Some pro athletes. Baseball team was one. Ron Mathis went to pitch for the Astros, and Don Greco blocked for Billy Sims and Barry Sanders up at the Detroit Lions. So,
wow.
It was a good school to go to.
High school?
High school was, it's a lot different than they are now, but they were good. They were good athletes, and I was a bit player, so to speak.
Some of the questions that I wanted to dive into are obviously going to be First 48 based. A lot of these are just for my education. I've watched the show. Like I said, I'm also not a fanatic. Lindsay, my wife, is, and a lot of people are. When did that show come to Tulsa? Was that in the middle of your tenure, or were you there for the whole thing?
No, I was there for the start of it.
You were there for okay.
The chief at the time was Ron Palmer, and when they approached, the First 48 approached Ron Palmer about doing that, and he was dead set against it. Then Chief Jordan came on board, and he was more open to that. And I remember having the first meeting with the First 48 folks. The John Kim, I think, was the guy that started it, and he came to town with a bunch of his people. They were really smart and really good at what they did, and they sold it. Chief Jordan then looked over at me and said, "Can we do it?" And I just said, "You're the boss. You tell me. We'll make it work." And they've been here ever since. It's good, I think. We're not getting paid for anything, so it's not like we're trying to make a living at it.
No money for the police department at all?
No, I don't
Really?
think it's in the contracts, So A&E gets free sets, free actors, pretty much everything free, but we get the publicity and the ability then to reach our public, which is Tulsa, which is we have to meet to be able to solve the crimes that we solve.
I was going to talk about that. A lot of people, especially not from Tulsa, Oklahoma, one of the main questions they say, or one of the things you hear is, "Oh yeah, move to Tulsa, come to Tulsa," and they're like, "No, they have all these murders. You don't see the First 48." But my assumption is these are happening everywhere. We're just one of the few cities that are willing to publicize it and maybe put that on television. Is that correct?
Well, I think that's a big part of it. Our record number is 83.
Which can't be anywhere compared to some of the bigger cities.
Yeah, you look at St. Louis, and St. Louis is broke. You're getting shot everywhere you go out there. So, no, but the First 48 only puts ones that we solve. So
it's solved every time?
We solve, last year they said 95%. In 2016 was a record year. We solved 100%.
100%?
Yeah. So when you solve them like that, you're going to get on the TV show. So, yeah, we're out there a bunch because we're solving them.
So they're really highlighting the good police departments who are doing a great job.
And the city itself, because we can't solve these. And I always told the folks that we're not there when it happens. So it takes the citizens to tell us what's going on. So once the citizens can see the way we work, the honesty that we put into it, the caring attitude, then they call us. Believe it or not, people will tell when we need it, they tell us. And that's what Tulsa is special. So really, you shouldn't say, don't come to Tulsa because we're on the First 48. You should come to Tulsa because we're on the First 48.
Yeah, bad things happen, but we have good people who are helping us get these things knocked out.
If it happens, it happens. You need people to solve it. You don't want killers in your house.
Yeah,
that's what we've proven.
Is the slogan or the the saying, the First 48, is that a catchy TV slogan, or is that true that if you don't get a solid lead in 48 hours, your chances diminish substantially?
I think that's really true, and that's the way we work it. You can coin the phrase, but we work it as hard as we can for as long as we can till there's nowhere else to go. And so if you don't, then the killer gets a chance to either dispose of evidence, figure out an alibi that is going to be harder for us to break. But if we go out and get a killer right away, we can recover evidence. They haven't thought of anything to talk about. So yeah, you have to get on those killings in a hurry. And if you don't have anything, boy, it becomes really difficult to solve.
One of the questions that I yielded for people to kind of tune into after the show, do you guys have any authorization on it being edited or anything filtered out? If you're at discretion to say.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Before they put it out there, we review it. We being the homicide guys, the command staff review it, and if they don't like something we said in it, they'll edit that out. Very rarely do we have something that we say don't put that in, because everything that we do is pretty much out there. I mean, it was the big thing was early on. It was you're going to show all the cell phone stuff we do. Well, everybody knows we do cell phone stuff.
What do you mean by cell phone stuff?
Well, if you're carrying your cell phone, you know that I'm here, right here at this house. GPS will track me here. So if you end up dead, I've got some explaining to do. So, a lot of cops are saying, don't put that out there. Don't put that out there. But, people, if you're going to plan a murder, you better leave well, I don't want to say that. So,
yeah, well,
but no, I mean, really, we don't really tell them no, but we have that opportunity.
There was a one of the documentaries I did watch. Like I said, I don't watch a ton of those, but we were living in the area, so I thought it was interesting. There was a guy who had 2 of his spouses accidentally die on his watch 10 years apart, and one of those was at Rocky Mountain National Park. She fell while they were hiking, but I'd probably spoil it for you, but they ended up going back, and weeks and months before he took her out there on a surprise trip, they pinged his cell phone towers. He was running up to Rocky Mountain 2 hours away, back and forth multiple days to plot this. So, which was hard to prove outside of that, because you're in Rocky Mountain National Park. There's no cameras and you're on a mountain. You could fall. But then they go back and they see that this guy, like 10 years before, he had a flat on the side of the road, and it fell on his wife. And then, he never mentioned this ex-wife to anybody. And then he was a business consultant for a business that never existed. He was just a giant bullshitter. And he married 2 very wealthy women. So, he didn't really need to come up with money to prove it, because he kind of mixed it all in. But that's long-winded.
Well, in the end, if you cheat and lie, you're going to get caught.
They got him, yeah.
So that's karma is kind of, it's there. It may not get you today, it might not get you tomorrow, but it's going to catch up to you. And that's kind of when policing is the same way. If you do everything by the book correctly, you don't cheat, you don't steal, then you're going to be able to enjoy your career and get that government retirement.
So when the show came to town, you had a big say in yes or no, this is going to be here, because Chief asked you.
He asked me, but I don't know that I could say no.
Okay.
It was obvious that it was going to happen.
Voluntold.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to make it work, I can make it work. It wasn't going to be like it was going to be that hard, because really A&E, or ITV is the parent company. The first 2 camera people that came down and embedded with us, Brandon and I'll think of the other name. I'm forgetting them now, but were great. I mean, they actually became members of our team.
Police?
And I don't think they're really supposed to add what they think on the murder, because we have huddles and what's going on and why do we. So we bring in everybody to solve it. And they would say, no, I don't remember it that way. And so they would give suggestions. And, anybody can solve these dang things, and we'll take it. And they did.
This may be a dumb question, I don't know. How does that work with this film crew? Are these guys contracted by A&E, or are they living out in Tulsa full time? Because obviously these things happen at 3 or 4 in the morning. You can't just call someone in. I mean, I guess you do, but are these guys just laying low in Tulsa waiting for things to happen, or are they? Can you elaborate on that?
Well, Brandon, the first guy here, lived here.
He moved here for the show.
He moved here. His wife came here, and then when they had a kid, they were out in Portland, I believe. And they moved after 3 years. So, and we got a guy now, Mikey G, who's a camera guy that, gosh, he's been here a long time. And his wife and kids are here, and so they live here. They may not start here, but they move here, and they're here. So the way that really works is
I get 1 or 2 main guys.
Yeah, there was 2 that kind of are set here, and then when they're on vacation, they'll bring somebody in from other areas to, just to fill in. But really, the camera people they're very good at what they do. The real life camera stuff is they're out of the way. They're not telling you cut and can you
let you
say
work?
that louder? You know, they don't do any of that.
They just let you go.
Yeah, and you know, the only thing that you have to do is mic up. You know, they put a mic on you when you're first there, and then they follow you around. But you don't even know they're there by the time you're working it.
Were you ever nervous or any added pressure when you first started the show that now everything you do is on footage?
Nope, I like it.
You just worked as normal?
I mean, it wasn't. We didn't miss a beat, really.
Obviously, yeah.
So it really helps us, and gosh, it wasn't. No, I mean, if I thought about it, maybe because I'm not an actor, and if I'm really kind of quiet. But when you put the badge on and the gun on, and it's up to you, then you know your personality changes. And really, like I said, the only thing that took away was when they mic us up. You know, that was kind of a pain in the rear end, but it lasted about a minute and a half.
Do you have a relationship with still have a relationship with the department there, or maybe the new guy, like your replacement per se? Is that hard to remove yourself since you
you specifically have to remove it because it's not yours anymore. And
you don't do any type of...
No, they're good enough to carry on. I mean, I knew we were leaving it in good hands. The detectives that were there are top notch. They're great players. They know what they're doing. You just got to stay out of their way. And the way I worked and the way it's Lieutenant now, Watkins works, is two different people. I mean, so he works different than I. I can't go back there and say, well, why are you not doing what I did? Because he's a different guy, and he's solving them.
No armchair quarterbacking? No,
you can't do that. And I would be uncomfortable doing that. And I know that, you know, the old guy coming in and bringing up stuff and glad-handing people is just, we're there to solve murders, and they're still doing it.
I didn't know if that was, kind of difficult for you the day you turned in your badge. And I'm sure you watch the news and you see something to instincts not just to kick in and want to run up there and help. Or I also noted that you've said many times that it was definitely your time to go. If you would have waited any longer, it might have been bad for your health.
Well, I think what I always said is when I couldn't do 100% to 100% of the cases and give my 100%, then it was time for me to go. In 2016, I started feeling it. So it was 2018 when the numbers started crunching where it was down. I think we only had 36 for the year. And it was a good time to go. And I was done. I wasn't giving 100%. And I remember walking out in the driveway. Gosh, it was like maybe 3 o'clock in the morning. It was the fifth one that day.
Fifth homicide?
Oh, yeah, it was brutal, and I just told myself, I can't do this anymore.
5 in one day?
Well, yeah. I mean, we had them in 25, Yeah, I mean, it happens. And it does, we're all human. And I think it's really important for us to understand when we can't do what we want to do. When you physically cannot do something, it puts people at risk. And I wasn't going to have my team at risk because I was making dumb choices. So it was time for me to go.
And you were noted personally that you've talked about in other people that you were on pretty much 100% of cases unless you were out of town traveling.
Yeah, I mean, I went to every one. And I still believe that. I would teach that today, that you have to have somebody that knows something about everything, because what if it connects? What if one murder connects to another and these two teams don't know it? So I believed that and I lived it. And I created tip sheets so that everybody knew what we knew. So, like I said, the rookie cop working graveyard when I'm asleep can solve a murder. But he can't do it if they don't know what we know. So I think that's why Tulsa's a little bit different.
And you probably think Tulsa does a pretty good job of proper training with the patrolmen because these guys play a huge role in handling things until you guys get there.
Absolutely. I think it's a completely team effort, and it can be bogged down at any level. I mean, if the cop on the beat screws up, then it gets bogged down. If the chief of police says we're not doing it because it costs too much money, it gets bogged down. So anywhere in between, a glitch can happen that we have to fight. And it just doesn't happen in Tulsa. Our administration knows that we solve them, and our cops are out there working to solve it. So I think it really kind of even spills over to Broken Arrow, Jenks, Sapulpa. A lot of these places are all very good at what they do.
I had a distant cousin of mine. It's my mom's cousin, but he was, we believe, murdered in McAllister, and we think that there was the department, kind of dropped the ball on some things. When they showed up, the woman had admitted to shooting him, but she was not detained right away, and it was real fishy. We could probably dive into it, but I just know that it was on Native American territory, and he is Native American, so they took that route, and it went pretty high level, but she ended up not being charged. But I think a big part of it coming onto it was the patrolmen, and it was in McAllister. They didn't handle things very well when they got there on scene. So
yeah, I mean, we have to train them up.
We don't. You could obviously say maybe it was self-defense, possibly, but he did die. That he was deceased when they arrived, and
yeah, I don't understand, but we do screw up, and I always like to say it's not rocket science, not brain surgery. We can make mistakes, but we can't fix them. Very rarely do we make a mistake that throws everything off kilter. But if you don't do anything, that's a mistake. And if somebody presents something to you and you don't do anything with that, then I don't know how you can live with yourself, really. I mean, you're remiss in your duty. Our duty is to work to solve the crime. And if it's self-defense, so be it.
Another question I had, do you have any regrets from your career? You did 36 years. Anything that you would have gone back and changed, or?
Wow. No. I really believe that I lived my career with the idea that I knew where I was supposed to be. I think about, I was on the SWAT team for 10 years, but I was never like Rob Cartner or Bob Cotton or Rick Weigel, those guys that were SWAT guys. I was just a bit player. And I wasn't a great shot. So I knew I wasn't going to be that SWAT guy, but I was, a teammate, and I did everything I could. So I don't really regret not going that route. But I knew deep down it's kind of like being a quarterback. I knew I wasn't going to be a quarterback, so I went on to somewhere else. Eventually, if you just do the best you can wherever you're at, it will find yourself. I mean, karma does find yourself. And, I was undercover for 10 years too. And I knew I wasn't any good at that.
You were not good at that?
No. I mean, it was investigations, and I ran the unit. And again, I had people that did all that stuff. But
you had to be a little good if you did it 10 years, right?
Well, I mean, I didn't get anybody killed, so I think that's the big thing.
Maybe you're not giving yourself enough credit.
Well, I mean, I think I knew I was confident in what I was doing. I could plan missions and do missions and go indoors and chase killers. I even say now I'd rather chase a killer than sometimes deals with a 12-year-old kid that's being disruptive in a classroom, because killers were a lot easier to track than these kids. But, man, for regrets, no. I mean, my career tracked the way it was supposed to track, and it ended the way it was supposed to end. I tried to get promoted. Again, powers that be said, no, you're not where we want. And I wasn't obviously promotable. So, man, being in charge of that small group was ideal for me.
Maybe you had some good competition instead of not being promotable. Maybe
I'd like to think that, but I saw some of those people they promoted. And
I'm trying to pat you on the back here. You said you were undercover for 10 years. What is? I have a friend who works undercover for a department in Oklahoma, and some of his stuff sounds like small time stuff that you would do every day in a uniform. Not so much, big operations. Did you handle any big time operations that were notable, or?
Well, Yeah, I
or
think
catch anything that led to a very large.
I would like to say that we don't have a meth problem because of our investigation in 1997 that took on a East Coast and a West Coast and a Mid Coast methamphetamine ring. It was a biker gang, and we took it all down, and it was the largest bust in the northern district of Oklahoma by the feds. But it really didn't amount to anything because we still have a meth problem. And, drug dealers, there's one drug dealer still in prison. The other two people that got indicted died in prison. And as I careered out, I started thinking, man, we have a lot of violent people that need to be in prison. And this dope dealer probably doesn't need to be in prison for life.
He doesn't need to be?
No, we took his toys, and we took his money, and we took his guns, and he's taking a spot where somebody's going to kill somebody. Now, if they killed your kid, wouldn't you want them in prison before? So I think there's a lot to be said about the drug industry. I mean, I'm not a proponent of legalizing everything, but I think a life sentence for a drug dealer is kind of steep when we've got people pulling guns on folks and stealing their cars and killing kids. And they're not only going to jail for 30 years. So I think, we can look at that a little differently.
What would you recommend for that gentleman? You said not life, so what would that look like for you? Ideal scenario.
I think 20 years was plenty.
And you think he comes out and things are okay?
I don't know that he's going to come out and set the world on fire, but I don't think he wasn't going to kill anybody that day that we took him down, and I don't think he's going to kill anybody. For the most part, he was a good guy. He's just a dope dealer. He made his money illegally, and that dope does affect kids because they use it. So, you can say that he was not a great guy, but I'm going to tell you, when I ran into 13-year-old kids with guns and they got 5 years, man, my goal was to put them away until I retired, and that didn't always happen. So I'm not a proponent of drugs at all, and there has to be a penalty. I just think life is pretty steep.
Are you allowed to give insight of what biker gang that was? 97. I was only 7 in 97, so
I don't. I don't really know because of the way I worked the gangs was we went after the individual. If you were part of whatever gang, the Mongols or the Rogues, and I don't know I can't remember the gang that they were, but they did ride motorcycles and they were a 1%er, but I don't know the name because we went after the people. It was Jerry Green and Lisa Demery. I can tell you their names, but I don't know what gang they were in.
I've briefly read about this and heard, so I don't know if it's true, and I'm sure if you are allowed to say, is there Irish mob ties in Tulsa? Is that a thing?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we ran into the Irish mob for 2 years. They were just like a bane of our existence, and you would see a murder that was just totally stupid, and you say, this has got to be an Irish mob murder. And it was. I mean, we chased the Irish mob for a while. They kind of went downhill. The feds did a big investigation into them. I forget the guy's name. He was in Oklahoma City jail. He was in the Department of Corrections, and he was running things from there. And they took that down, and ever since then, they've kind of gone away. But, yeah, the Irish mob were here for a while. If you remember Madison Dixon, Seven, I forget her name, but her name was Seven, nickname. The women in the Irish mob were a lot more dangerous than the men.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. They were just mean.
And you think they're primarily gone, or?
I don't think they're gone by any stretch of imagination. No, the Irish mob are still here. I just don't think they're as active shooting people and trying to be that mobster gang that they once were. I'd like to say it was because of us, but I think it's just they attrition out. Either they kill or they're in prison, one of the two.
What would you say are some of the bigger prevalent gangs in the Tulsa or maybe even Oklahoma area that? Well, are there any that you can pinpoint that are probably your bigger issues?
Well, I think the Crips are the gang that is pretty dangerous. They seem to have no real remorse about doing anything. and the Bloods are the rival gang there. And then we got the Hispanic gangs. We got the Latin Kings and the Serranos and the MS-13s and, all kinds of. Then you got the Irish Mob and United Aryan Brotherhood.
We have MS-13 in Oklahoma or in Tulsa?
They're not prevalent, but yeah, they're here. And again, like I said, Sean Larkin was the gang guy, Sticks.
Yep. I listened to y'all's episode. I've listened to it before, but I re-listened to it a couple nights ago.
Yeah, so he knew all the gang people and where they all lined up. And like I said, we chased the criminal. And I tell the kids even at the middle school, I don't care if you affiliate with a gang or not. We're chasing you because you're bad. And let's change you. And if we change you, you'll age out of the gang.
You feel like you're changing those lives yet? Or is it still too new for you?
Now, if I have to look at it, and my friend Hal tells me that you're not changing them for tomorrow. You're changing them for when they're 25, 26 years old. So, no, I don't see any rapid improvement in my philosophy. And matter of fact, it's a day-to-day thing in the school system. You try something. If it don't work with the kid, you got to try something else.
I know there was it may have always been there, but I feel like I read it maybe your last couple of years before you retired, and then since you've retired, that you're seeing a lot more kids with guns, specifically at the mile stretch at 51st and Peoria. There's been quite a few shootings with young guys, right? 12, 13, 14.
Yeah, kids and guns don't mix. And I talk about the lost generation, and we are like 5 generations into that lost generation. So some of these kids, they just don't think like they should. I mean, there's something misfiring upstairs, and that's because of parenting, nutrition, drugs, whatever it is, they're not getting it. And they're dangerous. So, yeah, if we can keep the toys away from them, the guns, that's the best bet. And if we can steal them from them when they have them, that's even better. So we have to work, and it's always going to be work. It's not play, really, in the cop world. It's a lot of work. And if we really outwork the criminal, then society's going to be better for it.
I know that's one of the more rough areas of town. One of the questions that I yielded was, what would you say is one of the more dangerous parts of Tulsa, if you had to pinpoint one?
Well, you got one there, but any place can be dangerous at any given time if you're with the wrong folks. I mean, if you're out trying to buy heroin, you don't always have to buy heroin at 61st and Peoria. You can buy it at
61st,
91st and wherever. You can get it in Jenks. You can get it in Bixby. But you're still dealing with that element that's going to be armed. They're going to be high. You're carrying cash. So, I mean, murder can happen anywhere. Violent crime can happen anywhere. If you're out in the wrong spot looking for it, you'll find it. I mean, I guarantee you. So I don't want to say there's any part of town that's better than any other part of town, because there's good people everywhere. We've proven that when we go into these 61st and Peoria. We find good people that tell us what's going on. I don't want to say murders happen in North Tulsa a lot, because they really don't. But when we go into North Tulsa, we get what we need, and there's good people there. So the good people outweigh the bad people, or outnumber them, put that way.
This is I'll squeeze 2 of these questions in one. Do you think as a society nationwide we're becoming less or more violent? And then would you say that you think Tulsa has gotten more or less dangerous as your career or your life here has progressed?
Nationwide, I'd say yes, we are more violent. We are a violent society. We're seeing a lot more multiple victims. We call it spree killings or whatever you want. When you walk into a supermarket and just kill people randomly, I don't quite understand that method. That doesn't make a lot of sense. So you have to delve into the mental health, and again, you have to look at parenting and what happened to that kid or that suspect whenever they were children. Is Tulsa any worse? I don't think so. I think you look at the numbers. We as cops strive to We have to go find that criminal element, and that's what we're paid to do. And it sometimes gets hard to find that criminal element. So I think, Tulsa's good. There's not going to be any place immune to it, but obviously, there's places that you can move and it's a lot better, but you can still find trouble wherever you go.
Have you ever, I'm sure you have, been out in public with and maybe seen someone you thought was guilty, but you guys couldn't charge? Have you ever, Tulsa is a big area, but kind of a small area when you cover so much ground. Has there anybody you ever thought that was guilty and you had seen them in the streets later on or in public?
I can say no to that. I mean, I really don't. I don't know of anybody out there that I can say you're a killer and we proved it, because if you're a killer, it's my job to prove it, and we got charges filed on you. So I don't know that I have that. And I don't have any trepidation of being in the public. I mean, people see me as it is. It's going through Sam's is a lot harder because people want to stop and talk about the first 48 and that sort of thing. And
I didn't know if you had maybe ever been, I'm sure you have maybe been at a restaurant or a shopping center and you've seen some people that you've had in that interrogation room that.
I have had that happen. And like I say, and the way I truly feel is I didn't cheat. They know what they did. I didn't cheat to put them in prison. And so I don't have any I don't feel bad. And I think that serves yourself well, because the criminal knows what they did. If you cheated them, then you've got something to worry about. But if you didn't, you went by the book and you did it what it was supposed to be done, then I don't have any fear of meeting anybody on the street. If they want to hurt me because I put them in prison, that's on them. They'll have a fight on their hands, but it's on them.
Do you have maybe a ratio or a number in mind, or any type of, logic to most of the murders that happen in Tulsa? You say they average about 60 a year or 60 a year total while you were there, and since you've retired, some as high as the 80s. Is there one foundational piece that you could pinpoint that a lot of these things stem from? Like that might be gang violence, drugs, domestic violence. Is there?
Yes. I always say there's 4 reasons why people end up dead here in Tulsa anyway, 95% of the time. It's money, sex, drugs, or a vendetta. Very rare. Well, domestic violence type stuff. You're messing with my wife, I'm going to kill you. You've messed, yeah, that happens. And obviously money, robbery, marijuana. The business is a cash business, so we see murders in that way. Vendetta, we see the gang killings. So I think that covers them all. Money, sex, drugs, and vendettas. That's the 4 things I say you're going to end up dead doing. I mean, if you're out looking for heroin and you end up dead, then you shouldn't be doing that. So those are the 4 things. I don't think I haven't really broke it down and say, I just never really cared that much about what you were doing. I cared that you were dead, and that's the big thing.
This will probably be the last one I'll drill you with all these questions. I'm like I said, I asked for people to send these, so it creates engagement on the episode. Do you have any cases, or maybe one specific case that something that has maybe sticks out to you as one of your worst ones? After seeing so many,
well, worst as far
ones that haunt you, maybe.
None of the stuff really kind of bothers me, but what bothers me is the one Crystal Welch case. We spent a lot of time, a lot of hours going a lot of different ways, and we didn't make a dent.
Can you give us a quick spin on that?
Well, Crystal Welch was a meth user, meth dealer, lived in kind of a rundown place. It was, not a very nice place to live, no heating. She ended up dying, and they bludgeoned her to death, they or whoever did it, and then set the house on fire. So seeing somebody's dead of a fire is gross. I mean, but again, you're trying to solve it, so my mind goes away from what I'm actually looking at, trying to figure out what that was. And I think we messed up a little bit on that, and maybe let the prime suspect know we were on to that prime suspect before we went and laid hands on them, so they got to prepare. And that haunts me a little bit because I still think that person did it. And that person never got charged. But then there's a lot of other people that we ran down in that case, and I don't know. If I knew that person did it, we would have charges on that person.
What year was that? Do you remember?
Gosh, it was early on, 2013, 12.
That's interesting because I'm from Tahlequah, small town where not a ton of murder. Good thing, but there was a similar scenario, not a meth dealer, but one of the professors there at Northeastern, I don't know if you remember that or heard that.
Was on that Plenty of Fish, or
I think so.
Yeah,
dating app.
Yeah.
But the guy came from Tulsa, and I had friends that was their professor, and yeah, I guess something went wrong, and similar story. He ended up murdering her, and then tried to set the house on fire, which is extremely rare in Tahlequah.
I can imagine. We've had it maybe 2 or 3 times in my career here. So, but I was a part of that arrest team when we arrested that guy. So, yeah, I mean, I know that case a little bit, but I don't want to stick my nose in it because we were busy enough as it is. But man, yeah. So those type of things thwarted us a little bit, but yeah, like I said, we made a mistake in that case, and it will haunt me forever that because of that mistake, I can never say truly that he didn't do it. And so until I can say that, then he did do it. So we just got to figure out a way to solve it.
Well, Dave, I'm done grilling on some of those questions, and I'm not going to pretend like I know baseball, but I know you do. So I do have some baseball questions for you. If you could have the perfect infield lineup for baseball, what athletes would you have for the infield only?
Wow, like the pros? Whew.
I believe that's the pros, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the first baseman has to be Goldschmidt now. I mean, we're talking about right now. And a lot of them are going to be Cardinals. Arenado at third base. I think we can do a lot better up the middle. So there's probably, a second baseman and shortstop out there that, Swanson probably went to the Cubs in your life like that. But second baseman, I really don't know that much. But I think Acuna in the outfield is an athlete. So you really get strong up the middle. Catcher, I wouldn't bring Molina back just because he's old. But I think we did well with Contreras. So up the middle, we're strong there. We being the Cardinals, but if you thinking baseball, I really don't know the other teams. I know who we're playing, but I don't have to research them because I'm not making the lineup. But I like the Cardinals. So.
Well, I think this question should be answered, but I do have to ask it for you. So it'd be Sammy Sosa or Mark McGwire. Do you have to pick Mark McGwire since you're a Cardinals guy?
Well, I like Mark McGwire because he started out with the Athletics and his brother was there. And Sosa, I like Sosa too. I think Sosa was probably a better hitter after he started using steroids. So that kind of diminishes him a little bit. McGwire obviously used something, but he was a good hitter before that. And it's like Barry Bonds. That guy was raked before he started doing the juice, and then so after that he was just bigger. So I would pick McGwire just because he was a scrapping lad, and Sosa I only remember him when he was on steroids.
On the juice. Are you familiar with Ryan Helsley for the Cardinals?
Yeah.
He's from Tahlequah.
Yeah, I know he's from Tahlequah. Yeah, he throws the ball kind of fast.
Yeah. I think he had the third highest pitch ever.
Yeah, just hope they don't blow his arm out because we absolutely need him. We need him. We need him for 5 more years. So whatever you can do to keep him healthy.
Sure. Yeah, he went to Northeastern, and I did not know him, but several mutual friends, and my brother actually knows him. So it's a pretty cool story. I don't think outside of him. I think he's the biggest athlete to come from Northeastern, especially baseball, to my understanding.
Yeah, it might surprise you that I really don't know a lot of the history of it. I just love the game. I think the way the game is taught to young kids gets their mind working, and a lot of life goes through baseball.
Yeah, we didn't. Like I said, I listened to probably half a dozen of your episodes, and I know a lot of what you talk about with kids, and then really how you ran your department. You always reference that you try to run things like a baseball team, and then you mentioned that you're trying to make a lot of positive change via kids through baseball. I think that's a good outlet for them, and is that correct?
I absolutely do think that, and I did run my team like it was a minor league team because you can't be tired, and you can have the stud athlete, and we did. I mean, we had the Sheriff Regalado was on when I first started Homicide, and Jeff Felton, and those guys were really good, but they got overworked. So you need to bring all your team up and bring in the Matt Fraziers and the Chase Calhouns, the young guys, and the only way they're going to get experience is to put them out there. It's like a starting pitcher. You can't throw them every day. So you have to have rest. And so that's how our team really worked. And then we had a lineup up on the board. You knew when you were up and when you weren't. So, don't go get drunk the night before because you're going to get hammered. I like baseball. And I think playing catch is a good release for kids. Now that we talk about you don't have to be perfect, but you got to get your mind off of the troubles you're at. And playing catch, if you don't catch the ball, you're going to get hit with it. So I see the kids when I play catch with them now at the schoolyard. They have to think, and they're thinking about catching the ball, or they're going to get hit with it. So they're not thinking about whatever they're doing at home or their schoolwork or whatever problems they have. They're thinking about playing catch, and that's really special because that you can see just their level of stress diminish. And it's not so much that they're going to play baseball in college, it's that they're playing baseball right now. And that's the big thing.
Yeah, I have quite a few buddies who are football coaches. I think some of them coach baseball too, but a lot of times now that they are coaches and not in high school, the team may not need that kid as much as the kid needs the team. That's something they say a lot, and
that's pretty cool.
It
is really good that we've got coaches that think like that now, and that caring attitude is what's going to carry us through.
Yeah,
generations.
Yeah, like they referenced that a kid as you said, may not be perfect or may not be a starter, but that team might be his only peaceful time or his outlet or, like you said, his break from stress.
Right. We don't know what's going on in the homes. We just know what's going on when we see the kid, and the kid's acting out at 12 or 13. They're not mean or evil. There's something going on where this is an outlet for them. And school may not be the place where they get to release it, but it's safe.
Yeah, and school can be hard for kids or certain subjects if you're not getting that attention or if you're not excelling.
We see that. I see it. I mean, in my dean of discipline, the teachers get frustrated with the kid because the kid's not doing whatever, and you ask the kid why, and he says, I just don't understand what they're talking about. I can't do the math problem. They're just not getting it, and it's sad. But somewhere along the line, we got to get to them.
Yeah, I noticed in one of your episodes you said that your respect for teachers has just gone through the roof since you got in the school system, and you don't know how they do it. And
I don't know how they do it.
I don't either.
I mean, I really think that part of the training for cops need to be sit in the school and try to de-escalate that mess because they are great. I mean, the teachers are real heroes, and they know a lot about whatever they're talking about. And I always tell the kids that end up sitting in the chair next to me that you're not learning anything here. I mean, so you're missing this opportunity because Miss Butler or Miss Wynn upstairs, they know everything that's going on, and you need to be there, not here.
Well, Dave, we're right about at our time mark that we wanted, and I appreciate your time. I know you've got some Saturday activities to tend to, so if you want to plug anything before you go about your podcast or your book or your ME tours before I let you go.
Well, but the only thing I can say is I'm on Facebook at ME Tours. I write about what I think, and I'm not trying to make any money off of this, so it is what I think. And people like you that bring this out is neat, because I've listened to yours. You've got a lot of great guests, and again, I think that's a credit to you that you can bring people in that talk about other things than just what I know. So, man, if you need me, reach out to me, and I'm willing to help when I can.
Yeah, if you can put in a good word and see if Sticks would ever want to come on. I know he's kind of hard to get a hold of. He's a popular guy. So
if you bring a bottle of bourbon, I bet you he'll show up.
I can find one. I don't know. I follow his stuff, and he, he's got some good connections, so he's drinking good stuff.
Well, bring some Old Tub in.
Oh yes, I saw that. Yeah.
No, but thank you.
Yeah, and I did want to commend you on your podcast. Hosting that solo is I think that's so hard, and you seem so natural at it. But doing a solo episode is something I could never do. I have to have someone to talk to. But anyways, you do a great job at it, and I don't think that's easy. So you may, but I don't.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I will link your show on the podcast so people can go find you and listen, man.
Well, cool, and I'll give you a little bust on the next one.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.